The Verdict with World Pool.
Hello everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict, in which we are going to major on the July meeting at Newmarket, 3 excellent days of action from there. But we'll also go to York as well. They staged a superb card on Saturday, so we'll be over there a little bit later on, but we're going to start at Newmarket on day one, and I think it produced 2 of the best performances that we saw over the whole meeting. Here are the winners and times on day one. They were pretty good really, the ground really as described as being good to firm, good in places. Scandinavia, we'll have a look at him, 1.2 seconds under the Racing Post standard. Prince of India got under as well in that sprint at 3 o'clock. And Opera Ballo, the other one we're going to look at, also went under the Racing Post standard. And that was 0.97 under over a mile. That's a tremendous time performance from him. Let's stack those up as regards the Race IQ Time Index. The meeting average was 6.2, skewed by the 4th race, which was really steadily run. They absolutely crawled. Remember, that was won by El Cordobe, who quickened up better than any other horse in the race towards the outside of the field. But the other times were good. We were dealing with fast ground, and you can see that Scandinavian got a score of 7.5, Opera Ballo 8.4, the best of the day. OK, so let's get into Scandinavia then. For Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien, who else? Scandinavia came from 2. Nighttime Dancer was 2nd, came from 4. Hallelujah You came from stall number 1. Now, Ryan Moore, I think, had the intention of making the running here, and he's just edged his way forward in the early part of the contest. But Oisin Murphy, towards the outside on further, was having none of this, and he wanted to lead himself. He stays wide at the moment, but ultimately he will cross and clear Scandinavian. And what Ryan Moore does really well is he doesn't eyeball further. He says to Oisin Murphy, you want to get on with it? You go. He went too fast as well. The 3rd furlong, 11.84, whereas Ryan said, OK, Oisin, off you go sub 12. I'll sit in there and do a 12.18 and I'll get a lead off you. Good race riding from Ryan Moore. Now you see that Scandinavian jumped well from the stalls. He was fastest out. That's probably why Ryan decided perhaps he would make the running on him. Thereafter, now that Oisin's got to the front, we've got a really steady, well, a really strong gallop, but not overly strong. They've not gone really, really hard. They've just got a good gallop, and that's why it's produced an excellent final time of 2 minutes 42.3, which is 2.29 seconds under the Race IQ par for a race over this trip at Newmarket on the July course. And ultimately, Scandinavia is very impressive indeed. But why is he impressive? Well, the data can tell us exactly why. It's because he's able to increase his pace throughout the final 5 furlongs, gradually stepping it up and maintaining it all the way to the line and quickening through the penultimate furlong as well. I'll give you some of his sectionals. 7th furlong, 12.69. 8th furlong, 12.38, quicker. 9th furlong, 11.76, quicker. 10th furlong, 11.6, and that's a 12.04 thereafter as they went into the dip, but then an 11.68. So it is just a gradual increase of pace from Ryan Moore, who wants to get on with it now at this point. This is where he injects pace into the race. A lot of them in trouble in behind, Hallelujah You in particular. Nighttime Dancer's not going too badly, tracking Ryan through at this stage, but this horse is a relentless galloper. Look at his 10th furlong of 11.6. That's where Ryan put his foot to the floor, hit the accelerator hard, and Scandinavia responded in good style. Nighttime Dancer cannot go with him. We get to the 2 pole, and this is where he really picks up and does an 11.68. And look at his average stride length. He was best in the race, 7.56 metres. But his cadence was only 5th best at 2.15 strides per second. Tells us that he wants fast ground. He's a big, long striding horse, 7.56 metres his average stride. His longest stride in the race was over 8 metres. Big, long striding horse who wants a trip, wants decent ground, and look at him clear away from his rivals with a finishing speed percentage of 103.9. 3.62. So he's 3.62% quicker in the last 3 furlongs than he was in the rest of the race. Naturally, there's been speculation about where he's going to go next, this fella. Well, he's lightly raced, and the ledger was mentioned. He was quoted at around about 8-1 after the race, and has been clipped in since then. But more interestingly, he's in the Goodwood Cup, and he gets the 3-year-old allowance in that. He'll be getting loads of weight from his elders, and he does look like a very strong stay. As I said, this wasn't a crawl. It's a good, strong, even gallop, producing a good, fast overall time. And he was able to increase his pace from 5 out and just keep on increasing. Strong staying performance from a horse with a big, long, raking stride. Look at his ears there. The lugs never lie, remember? He's got loads in the tank crossing the line. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the Goodwood Cup, to be honest. Rumour has it is that he's got a picture of Kyprios in his stable. And he looks at it every night and he says, I am going to emulate you. I am the baby Kyprios, but I'm going to get there. Let's have a look at the data. Scandinavia, 2.48 seconds to 20 miles an hour, 39 miles an hour. Didn't hit the fastest speed in the race. That so was Nighttime Dancer. Was trying to chase him down, but he couldn't sustain his speed like Scandinavia could. 11.6, his fastest furlong, and a little bit quicker, Nighttime Dancer. But it's okay to be able to flash a bit of speed in a race like Nighttime Dancer's done, but you've got to continue, you've got to keep going, keep rolling. And that's what Scandinavia did here in this Bahrain Trophy. He is a tremendously talented racehorse, perhaps the stayer of the future, the horse that will go into all of the cup races and dominate them for a few years. The listed Sir Henry Cecil Stakes produced a fantastic winner in a brilliant time. Opera Ballo bolted up for Charlie Appleby and William Buick. And a reminder of the time that he achieved, courtesy of the Race IQ Time Index, shows just how good he was. 8.4. Now, Scandinavia's produced a very good time, but he's only got 7.5 out of 10. It is 8.4 out of 10, well above the meeting average for Opera Ballo. He's a very interesting horse overall, this fella. Didn't hack it in the Craven Stakes, but he managed to win at Sandown last time, and here he is wildly impressive. He comes from 7, Seagulls 11 came from 4, and King of Cities from stall number 2 was back in 3rd spot. Now, he was helped to a degree by having a pacemaker who went to the front with the big white face in the Godolphin blue under James Doyle, and James got it absolutely spot on. Opera Ballo broke well, 2nd fastest to 20 miles an hour, 2.44 seconds. William Buick did not want him to get on with it, because look at him, he's a keen going sort. He was way too keen at Sandown, but he was still able to win. He was way too keen in the Craven Stakes at Newmarket, and that race came far too soon for him. But before that, he'd been wildly impressive a couple of times at Kempton Park, where he'd shown a bright turn of foot, and he's able to pick up here in good style in the closing stages. The pace was very honest. That's why you get a good time. Even pace begets good times. They go slow and quicken, or if they go fast and get tired, they do not produce good times. Now, he's got a lead, he's still travelling really strongly, and what he's done is he's run past sectionals for the whole race. 2nd furlong, 11.82, then 11.7, 11.37, 11.18, 11.15, gradually increasing it, and there he is through furlong 6, 11.15, where he quickens his way to the front. He's still on the bridle here. Look at all these horses around him. They're good horses, but they cannot live with him. Now, he just hangs a little bit to his left if you want to be picky, but he's doing an 11.21 through furlong 7 on the back of an 11.15 off a really strong gallop set by his pacemaker, who's dropping right away at this stage. Seagulls 11 tries to throw down a challenge towards the outside, just can't get anywhere near Opera Ballo, who ran a par final furlong of 12.53, 12.95 for the runner-up, nowhere near as fast as Opera Ballo through the final furlong. What's so good about this is that he pulled hard. He was keen. Look, he wears a hood. He wants to get on with things, but they're teaching him to settle. They've employed a pacemaker for him now. He's rating a little bit better in his races than he used to with experience, and he's got a fine turn of foot as well. His finishing speed percentage 101.56 off that strong gallop, and that's just a little bit better than par, but way too good for the rest of them. None of them could finish the race like he did to produce that 1:36.43 time. The great thing about this horse is that he is learning with every race, every time he steps out onto the race course Charlie Appleby's got it right with this fella. He's gradually nurturing him, and a big Grade 1 somewhere down the line awaits, possibly the Breeders' Cup Mile, where they'll go hard. He'll be able to drop in and get cover, angle out and go whoosh. That's the theory, at least. Let's have a look at the data. There you go. Look at all those past sectionals that he fires. A bit steady way through the first furlong, slow as against Race IQ par, but then it's just even fractions all the way, but gradually getting a bit quicker. Look, 11.82, 11.70, 11.37, 11.18, 11.15. Gradually, the pace was increasing, and he could cope with it and go 11.21 in the penultimate. No other horse could do that, and he's pretty quick in that final furlong compared to all of his rivals at 12.53. This is a listed race, but for sure, he's a group race performer in the making. I think there's going to be more to come because he's still a work in progress. Let's turn our attentions to Friday at Newmarket now. The feature event was the Tattersalls Falmouth Stakes, fillies and mares. It's a Group 1 contest and there's been won some decent horses in the past. The trip was a mile. Here are the winners and times from that day. Pretty good times overall. I think we were dealing with pretty quick ground. Horses prepared to let themselves down. One for the Gutter put up the best performance on the clock. He was 0.26 under the Racing Post standard, but we're going to concentrate on the Falmouth. Cinderella's Dream at 137.89 in that race was 0.49 above the Racing Post standard, garnering a time index courtesy of Race IQ of 5.3, the meeting average being 5. Not the best time on the card, but an interesting performance nonetheless. Being a Group 1, very much worth looking at. Cinderella's Dream from 4, Godolphin Blue beats January from 1, Ryan Moore, Aidan O'Brien, Crimson Advocate from 6. Was back in third spot. Now, the point about this race early on is that Cinderella's Dream is very keen. She wants to get on with it. She's quickest to 20 miles an hour, 2.45 seconds. William Buick is anxious to get her settled and drop her in. Bit Opera Ballo style, but he hasn't got a pacemaker here. It's Roaring Lion who goes along, Running Lion who goes along in front. And just sets an even gallop. It wasn't that quick early on. The first 2 furlongs were rated as slow as against the Race IQ par, so they weren't going fast. Running Line went 12.3, 12.07, the second and the third furlong. So despite the fact they're a little bit strung out, it is not particularly quick. But after those first 3 furlongs, they then begin to wind it up. For example, the leader, 12.07, that's a slow furlong. And that's for furlong 3. But furlong 4 picked it up, 11.59, picked it up again, 11.53, picked it up again, 11.36. But those in behind then start to quicken. And the first 3 home all fire faster than par sectionals, with Cinderella's Dream being the fastest. So what we've got is a bit of a steady race, a bit messy, that turns into a sprint. There's her 6th furlong, 10.93 seconds. The runner-up, January, did a 10.9, coming towards the stand side, so a little bit quicker. But then the very fast furlong was 2-1. Getting to it now, 10.81. Wow, for Cinderella's Dream, and only 10.97 for January. That's just about got her to the front. And the final furlongs, when you couldn't split them, they both went through in the same splits through the final furlong. But Cinderella's Dream, that penultimate furlong, just quickened up a little bit better than January. I thought it was a good move from Ryan Moore to head across towards the stand side. As we went through the meeting, I think it became obvious that there was a slight advantage to being towards that stand side. Only a slight one. Sometimes it's a real marked advantage on the July course, but not on this occasion because there hadn't been much watering going on. So watering didn't really have an effect. And Ryan just probably wanted the rail. He'd rolled along on the previous day on Scandinavian up that rail. He probably thought it was the place to be. Tough from the winner. I think this is a bit of a blow par Group 1 for fillies and mares. Overall, it was okay. It was run at a bit of a crawl. It turned into a sprint, and she showed a really good turn of foot. She's going to be much better when she gets a faster gallop to go at. When she can just sit in, drop her head, which she didn't do here, and then quicken like she did on this occasion, because she went 23.25 for her final couple of furlongs. So they're both sub 12 seconds. She's flown home 23.41 for January, so quicker through that phase of the race. So what we know from this, what we've learned, is that she has got a really good turn of foot. She just needs to settle down a little bit. I wonder whether North America might be the place that they'll go with her next, possibly towards the end of the season. And there you go. Look at those sectionals. Steady early on. That's a sea of blue in the early part of the race. Picked it up a little bit then, furlong 3, got steadily quicker. And then the sprint was on from furlong 6, the winner going 10.93, 10.81, and then a 12.44, same as January. But January had been seen off in that penultimate furlong, rated as very fast the first 3 home. If they got a strong gallop and used up loads of energy, they wouldn't have been able to finish that well. Let's turn our attention to Saturday now, and we're going to start by having a look at the Bet365 Bunbury Cup. Of course, it was a July Cup as well, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. But we'll start with the Bunbury over 7 furlongs, and here are the winners and times. They're pretty good, the times. Good to firm officially the ground. No horse going under the Racing Post standard. The suspicion was that it was just a little bit easier than it had been on the first couple of days. There's More Thunder, 1.45 above the Racing Post standard. No half measures. 0.98 above over 6 furlongs in the big Group 1. We've got the Race IQ Time Index, just to put those in some sort of context. Look at the meeting average. Now remember those averages for our first couple of days at Newmarket. They're much higher than that, almost double that. So that sort of suggests to me that the ground wasn't quite as quick as it had been on the previous days. We're going to look at those 2 columns highlighted, 4.4 and 3.9. 4.4 for More Thunder, and then, of course, no half measures at 3.9. So we'll start with the Bunbury Cup. The horse was so unlucky in the Wokingham stall. 13 he came from. He beat Alto, won this last year, from 5. Billy Joe from 6. 4th home was a horse called £10, who came from stall number 3. Now, I was talking about the stand side a bit earlier on when Ryan Moore went over to that side on January, and Tom Arcand was keen to do exactly the same. 10th fastest to 20 miles an hour, and held up plumb last. That is not a good place to be normally on the July course. Horses rarely come from that far back, and he's just a little bit on and off the bridle in behind. I wonder whether he wants a bit more cut in the ground, enable horses to stop in front of him. He has won with a bit of ease, but nonetheless he's travelling relatively strongly at this stage. Now, he probably should have won the Wokingham. Things didn't go right for him there at Royal Ascot. Tom got his whip caught up in his reins in the closing stages, couldn't really extricate him, and he came from a long way back. But he's come from a long way back here. He's racing through par sectionals, and he's going 11.58 in 12th spot, 11.33 in 12th spot, 11.33 in 11th, 11.22 in 10th. 10th, well, we've just got 2 furlongs to go, but then he picks up well and runs evenly through those 2, 24.04, and he's not far off being bang on the finishing speed percentage. Alto's going better than him. They're both stand side at this stage. Look at furlong 6, 11.35, but Alto next to him went 11.34. You couldn't really separate them as far as the data is concerned until the final furlong. There's not much of a difference, but 12.69 placed 12.73. That 12.69 just got in there. Boy, was it tight. Alto perhaps a little bit unlucky. And given the finishing speed percentage is just about bang on what you'd expect for a race of this standard over this trip at Newmarket, you'd have to say that Tom Arcand has actually rated his horse really well. Some of those that were up there early on have probably gone just a little bit too quick and didn't finish the races off particularly well. Dark 30 made the running and got an FSP of 94.47. Absolutely shattered in the closing stages. So I think coming from just off the pace was a benefit. Whether they want to be that far off it with him in the future, I don't really know. This was 7 furlongs, of course. Now, there's been talk of 6 furlongs for him in Group 1 company. There was a sort of half a thought to supplement him for the July Cup. They decided not to. Good job they didn't, the way he's performed here, because he needed every yard of the trip to get up. But if they're going to go 6 furlongs, there's one really big option, isn't it? And it's got to be Kipco Champions Day, a stiff 6 when there's plenty of cut in the ground, a track that suits hold-up horses. That would have to be the place for this fella, I think. But Tom Arcand's switch to the stand side as well should not be underestimated. I think it was a good move given how the track was playing. So let's have a look at the data. Look at this. Look how even he's gone. Look at that, all pars for More Thunder. That means Tom's rated him really well. It's rather like Opera Ballo. He's picked up well from the 4th furlong, 11.33. He's gone into 10th, 11.22. He'd gone into 2nd with an 11.35. Alto's gone into 1st with a slightly quicker one. And then it's just that final furlong. He just outstays Alto. The runner-up, very much back to form here. He's not been in any sort of form of late. He could go for the international stakes at Ascot. That might be the place for him. He ran really well in that last year. But More Thunder, I think, soft ground, then you could return him to sprinting. On this ground, he definitely wants 7. Okay, the big race of the meetings, the Al Basti Equiworld Dubai July Cup Stakes, Group 1 for the sprinters. over 6 furlongs. Let's remind you just how fast the winner ran. No half measures, who's produced a time index score for the meeting of 3.9, the meeting average being 3.5. Now, by and large, an average sort of time is about 6, a score of 6. So these were under par and slightly disappointing, but maybe the ground was easier on the final day. And you can be forgiven for thinking that this was a 3 furlong race, not a 6 furlong race. No half measures came from 15, right over on the far side. Big Mojo from 9, Run to Freedom from 13, and Believing having her final start. She ran well enough from stall 11. Break speed 0 to 20 miles an hour. The winner, 4th quickest, 2.36 seconds to get up there. Big Mojo, he was the fastest at the whole meeting with 2.08 seconds to get to 20 miles an hour. Now I'm highlighting these early sectionals. They are lightning fast. 10.46 through the 2nd furlong. That is really quick. Rated as very fast for no half measures, who's over on the far side. And then a 10.77 rated as fast, and we're now at halfway. So they have rolled along in this race. They've gone really hard, and then they stop. You can see no half measures far side beginning to launch a challenge. Big Mojo middle, and the 3rd horse Run to Freedom over that far side as well. No stands rail required this time. This was just an attritional sprint where horses stopped. They went very hard and stopped, and no half measures just kept going better than the others. Although well rated by Neil Callan in 9th place, wanted nothing to do with the pace really. Big Mojo was rated in 7th and Run to Freedom in 11th, Believing 4th, rated in 13th. So there was something in coming from off the pace. 13.14, look at that, really slow final furlong. It's rated as slow as against the Race IQ par. And the final 2 furlongs of 24.51, wow, that's slow, produces a finishing speed percentage of 96.81. Wow, you can be forgiven for thinking we're racing on dirt here. 99.3. is where you want to be if you've been rated evenly, just like Tom McCann did on More Thunder. This is a race where they all used up their energy early on, and then it was who could just last out longest. Notable speech in Godolphin Blue. He had added lustre and a load of class to the race, having won the Sussex Stakes and the Guineas last year. He disappointed, couldn't really spin his wheels quick enough, to be honest. I think he got caught out by the early pace, and then he didn't really pick up. Although the suspicion is that given his rounded action, that always a little bit of ease in the ground is going to suit him. We've got to say, this is a landmark winner for Richard Hughes, who booked Neil Callan, and great winner for Neil. He hasn't had a winner like this for a long time, although he had a good time in Hong Kong when he was out there. But this horse has run well in high-end handicaps in the past. There's one here at Newmarket too in the past, and here quite simply just kept going better than all of his rivals. 13.14 was better than the runner-up in the final furlong of 13.41. But in a sprint like this, a Group 1 sprint, you expect to see 13.14 and then all those very slow ones for those horses that chased home no half measures. Not really. 13.41 Big Mojo, 13.35 Run to Freedom, Believing 13.35, 13.56 Notable Speech, who was on fumes at the end. So that tells us it is a very, very strongly run race. It paid to come from just off the pace. And then rather like a dirt race, you just got to hang on in there and keep going. Better than your rivals. No half measures did that. Time to move away from Newmarket now and have a look at an excellent card at York on Saturday afternoon. Here are the winners and times from it. And we had 2 times go under standard. They're both on the straight sprint track, Washington Heights and Aberama Gold. Slightly slower times on the round course, but I think commensurate with the going description of good to firm, good in places. And we're going to concentrate on the John Smith's Cup handicap. Fox Legacy, 1.8 above the Racing Post standard and a 4.9 Race IQ time index. So just below the meeting average of 5.3. And there's a reason for that, and that reason lies, as so many reasons do when it comes to analysing horse racing, in pace. So let's have a look and see what happened. Now, he's widest of all in stall 19. It's a massive disadvantage. The second horse came from 10, and the third better draw. Now look at PJ McDonald from the gates. He wants to get on with it. Look at the Race IQ draw bias, stall 19, historically over 10 furlongs at York, minus 0.4 of a length. So he's had to overcome that. disadvantage, and he has done so by being quickly into stride, 6th fastest to 20 miles an hour, and being able to slot in behind a steady pace set by Archivist in the early part of this contest. Archivist, a very interesting horse going forward, but the first 4 furlongs were pedestrian. Really steady in the early part of this race. And look at Fox Legacy and PJ McDonald beginning to make a move towards the outside. He's done his job from the gates. Now he wants to be prominent, cognizant of the fact that this pace is really slow, courtesy of Archivist, who went 17.91 the first furlong. Boy, is that slow. 13.55, 12.9 and 12.78. And they only began to wind it up at the 6 furlong pole. So they've only got 4 furlongs to go. So it really was quite steady. Horses held up, were at a distinct disadvantage. We'll highlight one who absolutely flashed home in a moment. Look at where Fox Legacy is. Used to be with Sir Michael Stout, this horse. Now with Andrew Balling, who's won 2 out of 3 with him. And to be fair, it could have been 3 out of 3. He won his group in the Royal Hunt Cup, but was beaten by the other group, the other side of the track. So that wasn't necessarily his fault. Now they begin to wind up, and the winner quickens up in good style. 8th furlong, 11.07, then he went 11.43, then he went 12.1, all rated as fast. There's his 8th furlong. It's when he's got himself to the front from second. He's gone past Archivist with that turn of foot. Look in there, highlighted for you, Erzincan, who was 14th for much of the race, and out the back, doesn't get a clear passage through, weaves his way to the outside, over on the far side, and fires 4 fast, very fast furlongs, 10.94, 10.93, 11.16, 11.82. He has finished gangbusters over on the far side, but he had no chance from his position in 15th, given that Fox Legacy was always prominent and raced very handy throughout. See that Storm, who was second, raced handily as well. So did Archivist, who made the running. So Erzincan has done best of those that were held up, and it wasn't just held up mid-div, it was held up right out the back. There he is, switching to his right and running on really well in the closing stages. In fact, his 33.91 for his final 3 furlongs is quicker than the winner, 34.61. That horse has really come home strongly. Used to with Paddy Toomey, now with Terry Kent. He's had a bit of a patchy profile, but he's clearly very talented. And if they can get him to back that up, there's a decent handicap in him in the near future. Another Sir Michael Stout horse to do well since Sir Michael retired. Fox Legacy, lightly raced. More to come, possibly in the Cambridgeshire. That might well be his race over 9 furlongs. He travelled really strongly here. Drop back a furlong would be no problem at all for this fella, and I think he's got a good chance if he goes there. This really was a bit messy for hold-up horses and those mid-div, but he was given a really good ride by PJ McDonald, overcoming that draw bias in the early part of the race. There you go. 20 miles an hour, 2.53 seconds. He was 6th fastest. He reached a top speed of 40.69, and he did an 11.07 fastest furlong. Look at Erzincan from the back of the field, 10.93, and the highest finishing speed percentage for that horse. Get Erzincan in your racing TV tracker. And talking of racing TV trackers, on the website, you'll be able to find some eye catchers from the July meeting at Newmarket. Harry Allwood's had a good look at the meeting. Alex Scott joined him in that task as well. I think they've identified some really interesting horses. The footage is there for you as well to watch and make your own mind up. So just go to racingtv.com/festival. Eye catchers, lots for you to enjoy there on the website. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed looking back at some tremendous racing at Newmarket and at York as well. The standout performances on the Race IQ data of Scandinavia and Opera Ballo. See you next week.
The verdict with World Pool. Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.